it's coming up with.
Oh, okay, Abdullah Rahman, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, I believe I've done the people now. Teresa, if you can just let me know if that is it.
That's all fine. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank
are
you.
we ready to start? Yep. Okay, thank you everyone for joining the People Power Places Support Clinic for application forms for the voluntary community and faith sector organisation. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Chris Krishnaraj. I'm the Participatory Democracy Coordinator. Can I have the three other members of staff introduce themselves, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sadia Orhan, and I'm the Resident Engagement and Participation Manager. Great to see so many of you here today.
I am Jyoti Singh, Area Manager for Stratford, West Ham, Forest Gate and Maryland. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Samantha Ulysses. I'm the Community Neighbourhood Senior Officer for East Ham.
Thank you very much. So just a few housekeeping bits and bobs. So the session will be recorded. So I've just pressed the record button. So the reason for this is that we want to make sure those who can't join us tonight have the opportunity to look back at the recording and just see if it will help them with the applications. Make sure you turn your camera off if you don't want to be recorded. We've got a Q&A session at the end, so can I just ask everyone to just please hold off on your questions while the presentation is going on, and just leave your questions to the bit at the end where you will have the opportunity to ask what you need to ask. If you need any support during the session, let one of the facilitators know in the chat as well. So I'll be talking myself, and Sadia will be talking through the presentation. Jyoti and Samantha will be looking at the chat, and they can help you through that portal. So why are we here? First of all, to introduce you to People Power Places. So some of you may not be too familiar with the program. And it's also to support you to apply for a grant for up to £20,000. And most importantly is to make a difference for the people of Newham. Just very quickly, sorry, I'm talking fast, I just need to catch up on time. So we just going through the housekeeping now. I will talk about what People Power Places is. Then Sadia will take over and she'll talk about the priorities and some of the details of the application process. We move on to questions, and then for those who want to stay, I'll actually put up the application form on the screen, and we can sort of run through it question by question, and you can ask questions about the questions. And then 7:25 we'll just tell you what's going on and the next steps and what will be happening in terms of other clinics and so forth. And we've hoped to finish by 7:30. So what's People Power Places? So we used to be called Community Assemblies, for those of you who remember us last year, which gives Newham residents a chance to make positive change together in the local area. So we are one of the largest participatory budgeting programs in the country. A lot of you may know that there's 8 community neighbourhoods that make up Newham, and each of the neighbourhoods will be allocated £200,000 for local projects. So that'll be done by voluntary community faith sector organisations and individual residents as well. And it is open for anyone who lives, works and learns in the community neighbourhood that you're taking part in. The money that's coming to us is from a particular source of funding called Neighbourhood Community Infrastructure Levy. And this is something that's charged on developers, so people who put up all these big buildings. They've got a duty to pay a certain amount of money to the council so that it goes back into the community. So that's what NCIL is, and that's where the money is coming from. And there is certain criteria for NCO as well. So that's projects that help with development and the growth of the area. So by law, this is what we should be abiding by. Projects that improve our public spaces and infrastructure, and projects that improve the health and happiness of local community. So the steps of people, power, places. So we had our local priorities sessions in May. So all 8 neighbourhoods had events where residents came in and decided on what their priorities will be for that particular neighbourhood. And Sadia will talk you through those a bit later on. You discuss solutions to improve your area. So this is, we're sort of between we're sort of step 2 and step 3 at the moment. So we've got the solutions events going on. We've had one last week and we've got another 7 coming up in July. So we'll talk to you a bit later on when those dates are. That's where people come in and they'll talk about their ideas for some of the projects. And then alongside that, we're running step 3 where we are taking applications in now. So residents can apply for up to £5,000, and voluntary faith sector community and faith sector organisation can apply for up to £20,000. And then step 4, this is where residents will have the opportunity to vote for their favourite project. So there'll be a stage where those applications then go through a scoring process. Those that are successful go to a vote for residents to vote on. Step 5 is successful projects will then be delivered by the residents or the local organisations, and that will be sort of from beginning of January 2024 to end of December 2024 as well. So that's a full year of delivery. And then after that, we will celebrate the achievements. And this is sort of a graphics point of view on that particular step cycle. So you can see where we are now at the top. And then we'll go through the application process. We will vote roughly in October, announce the successful projects in November, and hopefully we'll get everyone going in January to start their projects, and then finish at December. And then come 2025, we'll sort of look at evaluating all the projects and then celebrate our achievements. These are the 8 community neighbourhoods. I know it's difficult to mark. It's all the dark black lines are the borders of the neighbourhood. The blue lines are what are the, I believe, is in the wards within the neighbourhood. So there should be 8. So we've got Stratford and West Ham, Forest Gate, Manor Park, Green Street, Plaster, Custom Housing, Canning Town, East Ham. I did say Green Street, Beckton, Royal Docks. So there should be 8 there altogether. So those of you who are applying, I guess this map is quite important to, if you've got a specific location of where your project will be delivered, I guess this is where you will need to send your project application to that particular neighbourhood. So anyone who lives, works or learns in the community can apply. You must be 16 years or over to apply. No experience or knowledge needed, so we welcome all applications. Please note that you cannot apply if you take part. So if you part of a working group, so these are groups of residents that will be marking the project application. So obviously, if you're part of a working group, you cannot apply for a grant. Applications are open until Sunday, the 3rd of September, and we want to encourage as many groups as possible to bring their project ideas and put in applications. So, Sadia, do you want to take over from here?
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. So during our priority events, we looked at the different priorities across the Building a Fairer Newham agenda, which was introduced last year. 6 themes have been identified, and this is what we're looking at in terms of your local priorities, and these have been decided. So I'm going to just take you through a bit of a whistle-stop tour in terms of what those priorities are. The first one is health and well-being. So people in Newham have poorer health outcomes than the population overall. This theme specifically includes improving health and social care, tackling health inequalities and responding to the cost of living crisis. It can also include topics like life expectancy, loneliness and isolation, ageing well, and mental health. The second one is inclusive economy. So the borough's employment rate is lower than that of the UK. So this theme specifically includes inclusive economic growth, and this improves quality of life for everyone. So that's for all of our local residents. And this talks about supporting local businesses and creating accessible learning opportunities and job opportunities for all. The next one is environment and public spaces. So air pollution in the borough, unfortunately, is worse than anywhere else in London. So this theme specifically includes making our neighbourhoods quieter, safer and cleaner, responding to the climate emergency. It also includes improved public spaces in our areas. So this includes parks, community gardens, green spaces and cleaner environment. This also includes reducing fly tipping, which came up a lot during our priority events, and specifically air pollution. The other three themes are community safety specifically, so looking at the safety of our residents, and this includes women's safety, tackling the roots of crime and antisocial behaviour, raising awareness around hate crime and women's safety. I'm going to go through these a bit quicker, so conscious of time. We've now got youth empowerment, so Newham has the second youngest age profile of any borough in London. We've got over 9 in 10 aged under 65 specifically. So this theme includes enabling all children and young people to reach their potential, be safe, happy and healthy. And the last one is community development and participation. So around a quarter of residents agree that they can influence decisions in their local area. This theme includes increasing people's involvement. This programme is really specific to that. So it also includes improving the sense of getting on well together, being satisfied with the area and increasing participation. Thanks, Chris. Next slide, please. So in terms of the priorities that were chosen in our priority events, you can see that it's really interesting that health and wellbeing has been selected for all of our neighbourhoods. We've also got community safety selected in 4 neighbourhoods, specifically youth empowerment, environment and public spaces, and again, community development and participation. What's really interesting for us this year is we have the inclusion of a new priority for Custom House in Canning Town, which is inclusive economy. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to quickly take you through a whistle-stop tour of potential projects to hopefully inspire you and give you some ideas. So these include inspiring projects from previous cycles, but also inspiring projects from around the world. So I'll select one from each. So we're going to look at Generation East London, which was funded in the last cycle, 2022 to 2023. And this specific project was a BSL storytelling project for children. This also included death awareness training, self-defence classes for women that's delivered in East Town. A specific inspiring project around the world is the Heart Movement Bus, which is a free, accessible and mobile community space for people to experience the benefits of mindfulness and compassionate practices. Next slide, please. Here are a selection of projects from previous cycles that are linked to inclusive economy. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Manor Park pop-up market, which a resident was funded £5,000, and this was a bi-weekly monthly pop-up market that was encouraging local residents to shop local, but also meet traders and support their local businesses. Next slide, please. In terms of youth empowerment, we had some fantastic projects linked to youth empowerment from previous cycles. We had the Youth Football Club, and this funded football sessions and special events encouraging young people to become more physically active and socialise. Other inspiring projects from around the world you can see. I'll specifically talk about Power Up, which is an arts and skills development project specifically for young women in East London becoming involved in criminal activities. So you can see the wide variety of different types of projects, and hopefully that's given you some ideas and food for thought. Next slide, please. So in terms of community safety, we've 3 projects up here. We will be sharing these slides afterwards. They will be going up in New and Co-Create. So the project that I want to focus on is our Safe Streets project in Plaistow, which was a training and community engagement events to help develop a proactive neighbourhood watch scheme in Plaistow. Next slide, please. And then in terms of environment and public spaces, we had many projects in this particular category from our previous cycles. I want to talk a little bit about signposts and trails to playgrounds in Forest Gate. This was a fantastic project that created colourful signposting and trails to different areas of the neighbourhood, particularly at key junctures, and painted trails which led from nearby businesses specifically to playgrounds. Next slide, please. And then on to community participation and development. Fantastic projects again from the previous cycles. Willow is a project that was funded in the East Ham neighbourhood, £5,000, a collaborative theatre project in Central Park with theatre and craft workshops. And this culminated in a final event. And then other projects or ideas. Okay, moving on to practical details. So this is just to give you a bit of an overview of specific practical details for the programme. Projects are expected to be completed by the 31st December 2024. So we will have a year for project delivery this time. Projects will need to address at least one or more of the 3 priorities as voted for by residents for the neighbourhood that you are applying in. Details of the priorities I just went through earlier, and they're also on page 6 of the application form. You cannot apply for more than one project for the 2023-2025 People Power Places cycle. Projects will also need to be entirely new projects and not a continuation of a previous community assembly project. Any staff or salary expenses need to be detailed in the budget section on page 12 of the application form. All staff and salary expenses must follow employment rules, provide value for money, and directly support the delivery of the project. This may be subject to further inquiries from our community neighbourhood teams for further clarification. We may require some supporting documents. More practical details. Projects in public spaces may need prior consultation. Please speak to your community neighbourhood team if you're unsure whether you need this or not. We're also running a how to do a consultation support clinic on Monday, the 24th of July at 6 p.m. Colleagues will drop details of this in the chat. Please also visit People Power Places and New and Co-Create to find out how to book a spot. If you're unsure about how to cost your project, we will be publishing the cost catalogue document as a rough guide on New and Co-Create alongside our application forms. We're also hosting a how to cost your project support clinic on Thursday, the 20th of July, online on Zoom at 6 p.m. Again, there will also be details of this in the chat. You may need to seek some further permissions for your projects, for example, on projects that will be held on public spaces. We're talking about land, parks, and premises. Please be clear about the locations in this section of the application form. You may also be asked for safeguarding policies and DBS checks depending on the nature of the project and who you are involving in that project. Please ensure these are in place. Please also read the conditions of the grant section on page 16 of the application form where you can find some further information. Next slide, please, Chris. Details of our support clinics are on the screen as I speak. So we're here today for How to Spot project application for voluntary community faith sector groups. On Thursday, the 13th of July, if you know any residents who specifically want to apply for a People Power Places grant, we are holding a project clinic for how to submit a project application for residents. And again, details of how to cost your project on Thursday, the 20th of July, and how to carry out a consultation on Monday, the 20th of July, 24th of July. These will all be recorded and you will find them on New and Co-Create. So in terms of how to apply, you'll need to go to New and Co-Create. The link will be in the chat. You will need to download and fill in the application form or print the print ready version to fill out by hand. Libraries can also give you a printout if you don't have a printer. You can return it by email to your local community neighbourhood team or hand it, or you can also post it to your local library. You have until Sunday, the 3rd of September 2023 to apply. After the deadline, our working groups and council departments will process your application, going through a detailed shortlisting process. Successful applications that go through this process will be put through to the voting phase of the cycle for residents to choose their favourite projects. We've got a handy tip here. So get your application forms in early so that working groups and our council colleagues can have a chance to read through it and have enough time to ask you further questions if needed. You may get the opportunity to refine your application before the deadline. Next slide, please. So here are details of our upcoming events, our solutions. Again, colleagues will drop a link to all of these events in the chat. They kick off next week. On Monday, we have our first one at Forest Gate. We've got 4 events next week. And then the following week, we've got a further 3. So over the next fortnight, the team are very, very busy, but we hope to see you at some of these events. Next slide, please. Oh, brilliant. Okay, on to questions. Any questions?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, it's Dean Arman from the Custom House Bookshop. I have a question. Are you using the Oracle Fusion platform as a payment method?
We will be, Dean. Yes.
Okay, that was a real challenge last time.
We will hopefully provide project applicants who are successful with some support this time around, Dean. So it'd be great to take this conversation offline with you and find out what.
We did get support and that was really good. So yes, we'll take it offline.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Do we?
Chauffeur, please.
Brilliant, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Chauffeur.
Yeah, thanks, Jyoti. Thank you for calling out my name. So I'm just picking up with the question where it says the projects have to be brand new ones. And this is an area that I, as a resident and as a project lead for a volunteer organization that works with young people tackling mental health issues and environment, about sustainability. As a borough, if we are, pushing this whole sustainability, climate, recycling, just because this is the second year I've been successful in delivering a project, and they've been brilliant. At the moment, we've got about 30 active youth leaders who live in Newham engaging in our project. And one of the issues I have is we've invested 2 years of work in gaining interest in engaging young people under 18 and planning a brand new project. And we've got so much, we've got £28,000 worth of equity that's gone through over the 2 years through Newham. Now, what happens to those, valuable resources, the work we're doing on the planters, if anybody doesn't know. So in terms of a fresh new idea, as a resident and a parent myself, and someone who's concerned about climate issues, I'm just concerned about this rule about a brand new project. I don't know if anybody else here wants to input, because that is an issue that we've had lots of discussions about in the community in Forest Gate. That's my question.
Can I respond to that, and other participants can input after that? So
Thank you.
The nature of the funding from our criteria only allows for new projects. This is to make sure that we continue to fund innovative ideas, that everyone has an equal chance to get funding. This is why one of the scoring criteria requests information about the timeline of the project, and it's realistic. And it's fantastic that your project has been so successful. What we'll also do is signpost you to other pots of money, Chauffeur. So we are working with Asper's Casino and also Tate and Lyle to launch 2 new funding grants in September and January. So we will definitely signpost you, and we've got some colleagues that can support you through that application process too.
Brilliant, Sadia. Thank you. It's really great to hear that. And I must say, just listening in, This is, this meeting is so much better than we have done in the past. So great learning being taken forward. Thank you, Sadia.
Thanks.
Thanks, Shrev.
And Marcus?
Sorry, before we continue, is the interpreter still in the room? Can everyone see her? I've received a message that the interpreter is gone, so I'm a little bit concerned for the deaf participants in the room, that they're unable to know what's happening. It's
What's it?
oh, technical issues. Okay then. Sincere apologies to the residents who are deaf, who are unable to participate during this. Hopefully she'll be in there soon.
In the meantime, you could pop on your live captions if that's helpful.
Okay, so
Can you go ahead with then Marcus in the meanwhile?
I just wanted to ask, what was my question again? I've been holding on to it for, how will we be able to get the link for this recorded session? Will you be sending it to us after the session is done?
No, because what we need to do is I need to download it and then convert it into a file for YouTube. So we're going to get our design team, comms team, to do that for us. And then once that's done, I will then post it on Yum Co-Create. So where all the application forms are located at the moment, I'll just add the recording to that page as well. So you'll be able to access that hopefully sort of towards the end of the week.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you need it quite soon?
I just wanted to get an update when it is when it is posted. I just wanted to know when.
Okay. So what I can do, I can send an email out with the link to all the all the people that registered on or joined on Zoom today, and also the people that bought a ticket on Eventbrite as well. So I can
Hello,
send
everyone
the
can
link
hear
once
me?
that's done.
All right. Sorry, it's sign language interpreter. Crackdown. Message from Shanti. My name's Dala. I'm deaf. We've got another two deaf here. Shanti and Aisha. The three are volunteered from Deaf Roots. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Sala.
I'm not using my voice. I'm using rely on interpreter.
Sure.
We're running Deaf Wellbeing Group where we bake in Stratford Library every Tuesday, 11 to 2 o'clock. All the volunteers came, they learned how to manage to run the group. They're doing very well. They learn a lot, like time management, organize, PowerPoint, and organize people coming, sharing refreshment, writing report. So now it's been over a year. So after that, each library, our volunteers are happy to apply funding, teaching deaf awareness and sign language for the community and staff. So, I mean, I used to run the Asian Deaf Association back to history. I left it and I forgot about the funding. I can't remember everything. And we rely on hearing people to support us how to apply for funding. I'm sure Samantha, who understand, we came her group. What was it? Film event. A lot of disabled people miss out information. We need to encourage deaf or disabled set up event like raise deaf awareness. What it's like being deaf. Definitely clocking class, how you communicate with those people. People with a visual impairment. People have different eyesight. We have so many deaf people who have eyesight problem. How are you going to support them? Where they're sitting? There's a lot of work on this. We have increased deaf with mental health and learning difficult. So, I mean, one of your team can support us how we can apply. We can happy to pay a project worker to run this project because we didn't get no funding from any funding for a Tuesday group, nothing. So how can you help us?
So your community neighbourhood team can help you, support you through that project application process, Sala. There will be project clinics that they'll be running regularly on a weekly basis. So that'll be one way that they can support you through that application process, and there'll be some one-to-one support that they can do. So I think it'll be a matter of booking an appointment with your community neighbourhood team. Which neighbourhood are you based at? Is there a specific neighbourhood? I understand that you do some work at Stratford Library. Or you
I'm hopping around the room.
Okay.
I mean, we bake it every Tuesday, therefore we'll be coming every Tuesday, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock. That's good for a volunteer because many deaf and hard of hearing, deaf TV, no experience, they don't know how to run it. So we empower deaf and hard of hearing how to run the project. So we're not, Stratford, we carry on Tuesday. I hope we'll get the funding to pay someone to run that project. We're looking to all each library like Glasgow, Canning Town, Forest Gate, will have to come set up, like encourage volunteer teaching basic sign language, the community raise awareness how to communicate with deaf and hard of hearing people and visual impairment.
Sala, will you be applying for the funding with Deaf Roots or independently?
We under Deaf Roots, but we had no funding, nothing for one and a half year. I gave my time to support the community.
No, sorry, Sala. My question is, if you
last week we're talking to deaf people.
Sorry, the question is, you want to apply for funding. Will you apply as a resident or will you apply it with Deaf Roots?
Because I have a registered charity, it's easier.
Okay, lovely. Then we can go via Sangeeta as well. So if she needs our help, we can speak to her.
She's very busy. She's very busy. No time. Difficult to communicate with her. She can't dine. We need from Newman Council support, train us how to apply for funding. Good for the volunteer, the learning. Clear aim and objective. How to run the project.
So later on during this session, we're going to go through the application form, Sala, page to page. So hopefully that will support you in terms of giving you an understanding of what you need to do to complete the application form. And as I said earlier, in the project clinics that our neighbourhood teams will be running, they can support you one-to-one to look at your application, to provide some guidance, to provide some tips as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Brilliant, thank you. Any more questions?
We have got Jonathan.
Hi, I've been long interested in figuring out a way to regenerate the area in terms of table tennis facilities and both indoors and outdoors. My main question around this application process is about it's too large a thing to just apply as a resident. So I'm looking to apply in partnership with organizations like Table Tennis England and Street Table Tennis. So I'm wondering whether that is how I will go about it, whether I'll need to apply as a resident or whether I can apply through this particular call. I think it's voluntary, community, and faith areas.
You would need to partner up with that organisation that you've identified, Jonathan, if you wanted to put in an application for a voluntary community faith sector application. Then they could apply on your behalf, if that makes sense. So they could apply for up to £20,000.
Because they identified me as the lead on this because passion, interest, connections, etc.
Okay, that makes sense. Or if you don't have that link to an organisation, you can apply as a resident, and that will be up to £5,000. So you've got the two options there, and you've got until
yeah.
September.
I have the link with the organization. I guess my question is, they've identified me as the lead, put myself forward as the lead for this project. In terms of when I took a look through the form, it looks like the lead person needs to be from the organization.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, you could help support write the application, Jonathan, but it need to be somebody physically from the application, from the actual organisation, if that makes sense, who puts in this application, and they will directly receive the funding, if that makes sense too.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank
Okay.
you. Any
LB? Stella?
Oh, hi. My question would be for Chris. You know, when he was explaining about the community neighborhood, he mentioned about being mindful of your allocated borough, or your main, sorry, not borough, I mean your main community, like people living in Plaistow, people living in West Ham and all that. So basically, I have been coming to Custom House and Cannington. So but my postcode is E13. So where exactly am I located? Because I'm confused with all these things, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine.
So for clarity, please. Thank you so much.
We can we'll locate your neighborhood for you. That's not a problem. So Samantha, could you possibly take details for Stella? And then Stella, if you can privately send me your postcode, I can check which neighborhood that will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then I can email you directly, yeah?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
No problem.
Cam?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. Just a very quick question. You mentioned in the presentation that there's an opportunity to put your applications in early, and then have people look at that and feed back to you. Can you elaborate on that? How does that actually work? Would it be one specific person that's allocated to you, or is it a number of people and you can engage with them over a period of time? Yes, could you clarify, please?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we are encouraging people to send in the applications early, because we can start the process of looking through applications quite early on. So the thing is, there's enough time for us before the deadline to kind of feedback or ask for further information that might that should enhance your application form. So when it does go through scoring, it will have a better chance. So things like you know, there's certain departments that can say, okay, this particular project might need initial consultation. It might need some work to be done beforehand that could support the application. So if you're having if you're thinking about doing a project in a residential area, on a public space, in front of people's houses, you know, you'll need that initial consultation. So that's why we've got other clinics like how to do a consultation in July as well. So for people who need that extra support. And also there could be they might identify that some of your costings might be off, or they might be incorrect. So we could sort of come back to you and say, look, you might need to change the cost here and there. That might make it a bit more accurate. And sort of also timelines and some of the processes that you might need to do for your projects that you might need to factor into your application as well. So there's a lot of things that potentially we can identify just by looking at your application form, because there's people in the highways team, in the parks team, that might be able to look through it as well. There might be so we'll be having a glance at it as well. So someone will be able to identify whether it needs that extra bit of information, that extra bit of work before it's submitted and marked. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So would you recommend ideally like early August? Is that enough time to get feedback?
Yeah. I mean, if it needs feedback, if there's more information that's needed, we're not going to kind of feedback to every application that's coming
Yeah.
in before September. But if we feel that there's some potentially additional work that needs doing to the application, then we can feed that back. Yeah, early August sounds good because that gives a good month or so for that to be done.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, anyone
There
else?
is Jill.
Jill?
Sala, is that legacy hand, or have you raised your hand again? You've got Jill, Julia, after Sala.
Yeah, Sala's again.
Okay, go ahead, Sala.
Thank you for sharing that information. That was really helpful. I think there's a lot of projects sort of spoken about for hearing and able-bodied people, and I think it needs to be quite a lot more attention given to disabled and deaf people. I don't think that there's really equality amongst able-bodied people, and the deaf people, for example, who are trying to apply might not feel so confident. So there aren't many opportunities. So, for example, if everybody rushes in with their application, I just want to make sure that it would be fair and that we'd all have a fair and equal opportunity to be seen for what we're trying to sort of apply for in this way. And secondly, we need to make sure that the volunteers are, sorry, I'm going to check what Sala means. I'll help it. We need to make sure that people who are suffering with loneliness and isolation, that they're also recognised within the community. And to raise awareness for these people and people who are deaf and disabled as well, because I think it's quite awful that they're quite often quiet and subdued and they're not taken notice of. So when you said about funding, so for example, if there's a deadline coming up, you said something about September, and I'm not clear, sorry. I need to have some clarification about the deadlines because you then mentioned August. Could you explain that again, please?
So in terms of the deadline, it's Sunday, the 3rd of September. We talked about applications coming in early so we could look at them and review them, and if you need some additional support.
Okay, just writing that down, Sala said, sorry. So she's just writing that down, sorry, 1 minute. So I've written down the date for September. So October and November and December, that gives 4 months. That's quite a short period of time. Have I misunderstood? She's asking.
So September is the deadline for applications. In October, we will have our voting events, October and November. Late November, successful projects will be announced. And then from January 2024 till December 2024, 31st, you've got a whole year to deliver your project.
So that's 1 year.
Yeah.
Can I just also add that this is a completely we're trying to make this program so that it's start to finish resident led. So for example, the project applications that you send in will be scored by working group members who are all residents. They're the ones who'll be marking each application against the criterias.
That's clear. Thank you. So I was just saying, sorry.
Okay, and then the successful applications who meet the criteria and have scored high enough will be put forward to the voting phase, and the voting phase is again voted for by residents of Newham. So it's not us as council officers who make that decision. It's actual residents who will decide which projects are then successful and are awarded the funding as well. And then obviously the VCFS groups or residents will be the ones who are delivering the project. So from start to finish, we as council officers, we want minimal oversight or decision making in the process. We want this to be almost 100% resident led from start to finish. Okay.
Can I ask a question now? Can you guys hear me?
Sorry, Jill first.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. So I come from a faith-based organization, and it's our first time looking into this application. Would you guys be able to give us examples of perhaps previous or faith-based projects that you'd be looking for?
Again, it's not something that we'll be looking for. It's what your community will be looking for, because they're the ones who'll be voting on your idea or your project proposal. So there's previous examples. So we can, I think my colleague puts a link on to Newham Co-Create, and there you'll be able to see community projects from last year, from 2022-23 cycle as well, for all 8 neighborhoods, and you can look through previous projects. We're going to put this the slides onto Newham Co-Create as well, and on these slides that I just that Sadia presented, there was some examples of previous projects as well on there, so you'll be able to refer to that as well. Do let us know if you're struggling to locate these last year's projects. I don't know, Samantha, if you're able to pick up the 22-23 cycle on Co-Create and possibly post that in the chat for Mr. Sorry, what's the name?
Gil.
Gil, okay. Is that okay? And then if you want specifically for faith sector project, is that right?
Yes, that's right, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just want to have an idea of like what would meet your requirements first of prior to any community votes. Hence why I asked for examples. But yeah, I think the link to previous examples would be helpful.
I can give you a quick example from Stratford, where one of the faith groups delivered a project. It was with young people, and they kind of gave them training on how they can, because these are the people who are living in high-rise buildings, and they were showing them how to grow food at home and how to cook it. So it was a very, very successful project. You can find that in the 21-22 cycle. If I find it, I'll put the link in there.
Was there one last year from Emmanuel Church as well?
Yes, that was improvements to the church grounds.
Yeah, so to make it a bit appealing for all the community to come and use that space, wasn't it? Yeah.
They included a lot of permissions, and that took nearly a year. So.
Okay. We got any more questions? Who's next?
Sorry, is Julia next? And
Julia, yeah.
Hello, I must look like I'm in a nightclub. I'm not. This is my lighting. It's a quick question, really, just around potential conflicts of interest. So I am a Newham resident. I work with a charity, so my project around health and wellbeing would be through a charity, a local charity. But I'd be wanting to connect up with LBN, with link workers, with GPs and other, as well as self-referrals through residents and so forth. Is there anything that you would add in this application around conflicts of interest, for example? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, we do have a section on the application form. So we'll go through the application form shortly. There is a section on there where we ask you to identify whether you can potentially see any conflicts of interest. So again, some of the examples that we mentioned earlier was about you having a friend or someone in the working group that might be marking the application forms itself, or there's any sort of links you might have that might give you that better advantage of getting more marks on your application form. So anything that you can think of that you think might be a conflict of interest, please note it down on that application form. But we'll go through that in a bit anyway. So.
We've got Abdullah Rahman, I think, with Teresa.
Hi, Abdullah. Hi.
Hi there. My name's actually Shafi. Hiya.
Hiya.
I work for Deaf Roots as well, for Deaf Roots Association. We support people with who are deaf or hard of hearing. Within my team, we have volunteers who are deaf, and they'd like to set up projects themselves. As part of Deaf Roots, they're actually trained as part of one of the projects that Deaf Roots runs. The volunteers are being trained, and they're slowly learning different skills. And one of the things that they're learning is how to apply for funding to set up a project. So so what we were wondering is if we could have some specific information from you that could be delivered directly to our volunteers. Perhaps somebody would be able to come, if we could book someone from the council to come and explain it directly rather than in person rather than on Zoom. Is that something that would be possible?
Could they come along to one of our project clinics? There will be set days and you can book them with the neighbourhoods. So some of the neighbourhoods are running them twice a week over the next 8 weeks. So there's potential to book a slot directly and speak to our community neighbourhood teams on the ground who are working on the programme. Specifically in the neighbourhood that you want to apply for.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'll contact them about that. Thank you.
Brilliant. Most of the neighbourhood teams are either based at our local libraries or community centres in the area as well.
Who's next, Georgie?
Sorry, I've just sent you the list, Chris. If you just.
Oh. Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hi. I had a question. It's partly about the application procedure, but I know there's changes to how the voting works this year, so I don't know if you're able to say anything about that and how it's different and how it's going to be different.
So I didn't.
Sorry, did not hear.
I heard you, Sue. It was the voting will be different. So we will have some in-person voting events this time around where you can actually vote for vote for your favourite projects that residents want to see in your neighbourhood. So those events will be, we'll ask our project leads to deliver a presentation for a short amount of time, and then at the end there'll be the ability for residents who are attending those events to vote for their favourite projects. In addition to that, we will also move the voting online through New and Co-Create for a few weeks, so residents can vote for their local neighbourhood, specifically for the projects that they want to see happen in their areas.
And as you say, is it you can only vote in your own area, or you can vote across neighbourhoods?
We're looking at that specifically at the moment, Sue, so we will come back to you on that in terms of what that looks like online. We will be looking at how we ensure that residents only get the opportunity to vote once for the projects, if that makes sense too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you. That's helpful.
Got Norbert.
Thanks for the presentation, but I have a big question or a concern about the vote. You know, even with the political elections, we have already serious problem of people who don't go to elect. And you know that in our borough, some borough got a concentration of people from XY background or ethnicity. So those organizations will be, their project will pass because they will have a lot of people who will vote for them. So why not, I will take an example. We got similar things in Wales, and when I was living there. So what they did really, they divided the funding or the project into parts. There is, for example, they will fund 10 projects. So 5 projects will be selected by you guys, because this is your job. You know the area, you know the problems, and the people are coming with suggestions. So you will vote 5 projects, and the 5 others will be elected by you know the community. So that you know one side will compensate another one. But if you say that the project will be just decided by the votes, but that is we know how works the elections. So probably it's the bad people who will have their project to be selected. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. I don't know which experience you have.
Thank you for that, Norbert. I will respond in terms, so there will be a process that we undertake internally to shortlist the projects to make sure that they're feasible. This will be directly with council services, so perhaps the colleagues in environment, sustainable travel, who can look at whether your projects can take place in a public space. We'll also be doing this alongside our working groups, who'll be looking at detail at your project applications and shortlisting them against the criteria and scoring them. And then these projects then go through to the public vote, if that makes sense. So there is a two-stage process. We get to see them. We need to make sure that they're definitely feasible and that they can be delivered within the time frame that we have. And then it goes out to public vote. Now, in terms of voting for those projects, it will be residents and local organisations in the neighbourhood. It will be at the voting events, but you'll then have an opportunity to promote your project to local residents. You might do pop-up events, you might go to other events. It can be a bit of a campaigning process, so it's entirely up to you how you gather interest. But what we will also be doing is announcing projects online through all of our socials as well. So there'll be an opportunity for residents to hear about those different projects online through our communication methods as well. So there will be a fair and transparent process in terms of how we communicate it. And then it's up to residents to come along to our events, to engage with our local neighbourhood teams. What they will be doing in the libraries and the community centres is helping residents to also vote online on New and Co-Create to make sure that it's an easy and accessible process. They will be taking them through that process too. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, I got an impression that you are living on the sky, because if you know our communities, what is the percentage of people who use the internet, for example? So the percentage of people who use internet, that is the problem we are going to solve. So how will we want to solve this problem? Maybe we want these people who are not using internet to vote. So you will have a certain. So I think
That's
we
a
are
really
coming.
good question. That's a really good question, Norbert. And as I said again, our community neighbourhoods teams will be undertaking outreach so residents can vote directly in person at our events and also directly in our community centres and libraries. And we will be carrying out some pop-up events across the neighbourhoods for people to have an opportunity to vote for the projects in person as well as online. So our digital platform will add to the voting process. It will add to our engagement, if that makes sense. There will be many opportunities to vote.
I think we've got chauffeur.
Before we move forward, Sadia, I think it's worth telling everybody that they can only apply for one project in one neighbourhood, unless that's not the case.
Yeah, that's right.
That is the case, Jyoti. Thank you for bringing that up and thank you for sharing that with everyone. Any further questions?
Chauffeur.
Hi. Sorry, I was asking if what about limited by guarantee companies? Would they yeah, can you hear me? Sorry.
Is that Stella or Chauffeur coming in now? I thought it was Chauffeur.
It's Stella. It's Stella.
We had chauffeur and then Sala next on the list of questions.
Okay, can I
Sorry.
go?
Yeah, so
can
we come back to you, Stella? Let's just go to chauffeur first, and then we'll come back to you in order. Yeah, is that all right?
All right, sorry.
No problem, no problem.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so my question was, in terms of the working group who are going to be doing the initial screening, how many people are going to be sitting on the panel, and also is NEWAM going to ensure that those working groups are diverse and from different community kind of ethnicity groups, and also is there going to be a youth representation in there? And the reason I say that is because for the last 2 years I have been in the process and I have given a lot of feedback. You know, I'm not sure if there has been any data captured on the past projects on how diverse these working groups were, and also when I know there was a process where we were matched up with project monitors who are selected from the working group who come observe your project and give feedback, and that kind of goes into your monitoring and evaluation just to see if you've been spending the money and if it's successful. And we were matched up with 2 monitors, and unfortunately one of the monitors had, you know, by her own admission, she said, I never chose to work with a youth group. She didn't, you know, attend any of our observed any of our sessions that ran for, you know, about 10 months. And so I want to know that, one, you know, the working groups, are they going to be diverse and represent NEWAM, just like the gentleman before was saying? Are there going to be different age ranges and people who speak different languages and people who have interest in different, you know, all of these different things? Because there is a strong agenda on, say, nature and climate, and there could be a strong agenda on something else. And so I just want to know that, because that is the crucial part for all of us here. There's about 29 people here. The majority of these are people who are interested in submitting projects. And to do an application, it takes a lot out of you. Some of us have disabilities, hidden disabilities. You know, it takes hours and hours, especially if English isn't your first language. Some people pay to get the applications done for help. And if we're going to submit it, and is it going to be screened by people, and is it a fair process? And before it gets to resident voting, that's my question.
Thank you, Shiva. It's a really good question. We had a huge recruitment campaign earlier this year, and we had far more applicants for our working groups that we could actually shortlist, and there was a detailed shortlisting process and an interview process as well. So we've listened to feedback that's come through the previous cycle, and our working groups are far more diverse. There are at least 12 to 20 members across each of our neighbourhoods. We've now recruited 149 working group members across the 8 community neighbourhoods. Some of them even have young people. Obviously, it's a step change. We're working towards this, and our working group members have made a commitment to commit to the 2-year cycle. As we all know, that sometimes people's circumstances change, they have to move on. It's fitting around your own sort of personal lives as well. So it's a huge commitment our residents have taken on to become working group members. We've also got clearer role descriptions for our working group members in terms of what is required for them, how many hours they need to commit to, what that looks like. There will be some project clinics that support our working group members specifically around the shortlisting process as well, to ensure that this is a fair and equitable process for all of the projects that are coming through our way. Hopefully that answers your questions, but we have been listening to all of the feedback that we've gathered throughout the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thanks, it's really good to hear. Thank you.
Really conscious of time, Chris. How are we doing with questions?
Yeah.
Stella next, Sala and Dean.
Okay, let's
you're
finish
waiting
on
for-
those 3. I will start preparing the presentation of the application form. So yeah, just carry on firing the questions out. I will get up the share my screen with the form. So who's next after chauffeur? Was it Sala?
No, Stella first.
Stella. Okay, Stella.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stella. It's your
And
turn.
then Dean and then Sala.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Basically, my question was about the limited by guarantee companies. Which category will this set of people be classified? Like, would they be considered as a community, or I don't get it? I want to really understand, because I know about CIC and I know about this guarantee, limited by guarantee companies. So, but I don't know if these people want to apply for funding to run a project. So are they going to be applying as a community or as a residents?
So did you say that the organisation was a community interest company, Stella, so a CIC?
No, I know about CIC is
okay, you know about
yeah. Then I know that limited by guarantee as well is a non-profit company. They operate as non-profit and charities.
Okay, so if the company is a business and it's limited by guarantee, it is essentially a business and it won't be able to put in an application for the £20,000. However, if you have somebody who is a resident running that business, you apply as a resident, but you're not essentially using your business to run that application. You are doing this as an individual in a new community neighbourhood, if that makes sense. If you are a CIC, you can apply as a voluntary community or faith sector organisation.
Okay, but limited by guarantee cannot apply as a community.
Well, CICs are also limited by guarantee, Stella, so they can apply. But if you are just a limited company,
no, not limited company, just limited by guarantee is what I want to confirm. Not limited company. It's different. Limited by guarantee is a company without shareholders or shares. So basically, they are used by non-profits and charity organizations. So that's what I want to clarify, because we have this company and we are residents. Yeah.
Stella, if you can send us an email or a private message with details of your company, we can look it up for you, because I'm a little bit unclear. We'd have to check.
Okay. That's fine. That's okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, if we can just rush.
I think it was Sala next and Dean. So if we could get through our questions really quickly, so we've got some time to go through the project application form, Sala.
can't see Sala at the moment.
Can you turn the PowerPoint off, please? I
Yeah,
can't do silent interpreter.
we can't see each other now.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to stop sharing?
Sorry.
Deaf awareness again.
Yeah, that's just some deaf awareness, Sala's saying. I'm just trying to get her back on screen. Right, there we are. So, talking about supporting the deaf community, what's the difference between the 5,000 funding and the 20,000 funding? So if I apply personally for the 5,000 funding, I can do that anytime, is that correct? Or are they the same deadlines for application?
It's the same deadline. So there's two branches. One, you apply as an organisation, or you apply as someone that lives, learns, or works in Newham as an individual person. So there's two avenues to an application. Yeah.
I also wanted to clarify that you can only apply in one neighbourhood. You have to think about where your project is situated, where is it going to take place, and then you apply in that neighbourhood. There, this programme doesn't. There isn't an opportunity to apply across all of the 8 neighbourhoods or a few neighbourhoods. You have to figure out which neighbourhood your project will be based in.
Okay, so.
Can I just ask, sorry, Sala's saying also, if we miss out on that funding, so I'm just getting her to move, I can see her. So if we miss out on that funding, so and then say for example, after July, August, September, and then October, and then the end of the year comes and we haven't secured any funding, is there any other opportunities to apply for any other smaller funding that will be coming along?
Aspas Casino will be launching the Good Causes Fund in January 2020. The opportunity that we're aware of.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Dean.
Last question.
You're on mute, Dean.
This is the Community Assembly Evaluation Report, which we've read. We've also read and attended all of the Audit Committee meetings looking at the disbursement of SIL money. We were concerned at page 58 of this report, which talks about section 14, role of councillors. By going through the minutes of the Community Assembly, we saw that many councillors assigned to working groups never participated, many never even sent an apology. Can we please do something to make sure the councillors who are on the working groups actually participate?
Thank you for that, Dean. We are always encouraging our councillors to attend our working group meetings by sending them information, by sending them calendar invites, and also sending them details of what the meeting requires. We will endeavour to continue doing this. Okay, Chris, over to you.
Right. Let me share my screen again. 1 second. Sorry, I'm just lost where I put my. I'm just gonna have to share my screen, I think. Hang on. All right, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what the front page looks like, and it's specifically for voluntary community and faith sector organisations. You've got a couple of pages of guidance here, so it just talks you through the steps of what we talked about earlier in the presentation of the whole People Power Places cycle. It just runs through exactly what goes on throughout those steps. It explains again where the funding comes from. So we talked about that already during the presentation. And then you got some additional information about the support clinics and some additional guidance notes there as well. So just to run through of all the priorities again, we went through this during the presentation. We had the slide up for a presentation on this again. So on the application form itself, it's got quite a bit of information already, so for you to look at and refer to as well. So before you even start to write anything out. So as an organization, we will need your the name of the main person who will be delivering the project. So I know you might be an organization with several people, but we do need an individual to be able to contact. So please enter details there. And then it moves on to some of the details about your organization. So please tick where appropriate, or fill in the other section if those ticks aren't relevant to you. Dates of which the organization was established, and also just a brief overview about your organization as well, just in that section there. And then it moves on to the list of trustees and members of your organization. They're the main people in the organization that will be that may be sort of taking part in the project, but obviously start with your name and then move on to the next names of people on there. So this is where that conflict of interest question comes in. So it's not just the main lead person of the project in that organization, but it's any member in that organization. Would is there any sort of conflicts of interest? So do they know anyone in working groups across the neighborhoods? It doesn't have to be particularly to that neighborhood, it could be anywhere in Newham, any of the working group members in Newham. Do they have any affiliation with Newham Council employees, or are they Newham Council employees? Or anything else that you can think of that you feel that might give your organization the upper hand due to an association from one way or another to a particular person or service. So do let us know if there is a conflict of interest. It doesn't mean that your application form is rejected automatically. The neighborhood team will look at that and ask you further questions about that before making any decisions. Your organization website, social media, if available, so please enter that in there as well. And this section here is asking you whether you've had any grants or financial supports from funded programs in the previous years as well. So just explain what type of grant you received before, if you have received any grants before, and just fill in those boxes for us. And also just evidence that your organization operates in Newham or benefits Newham residents as well. Description of your project. So this is where we delve a bit deeper into what your project will look like. So just tick the box that you would the neighborhood that you're going to deliver the project in, and then go into a bit more detail about this, just writing down what the purpose of your project is and why you are applying for the funding. So just an outline of what the project is about and why you're applying for that funding. It moves on to sort of location as well, because locations can be quite important. So please fill in this section and be as accurate as possible on the location, because this is where what we talked about earlier on, where if it's located in a public in a highway or a park, this might need to be looked at by officers from that department, and we can give you feedback on whether your allocated location might be feasible or not. You might be given the opportunity to choose another location if it's not. So this is where getting your application forms in early has any advantage, where you can sort of make those amendments there and then, so before the deadline. So do you know who owns the land or premises that you'll want to do your project in? If you don't, you want to help finding out, then when your neighborhood team can help you do that. Will you need permissions to deliver your project or parts of your project? Again, this is events that could be taking place on roads or parks, so you might need to get permissions first. So if you've already discussed permissions with owners, describe that in the box there. If you need help finding out, again, speak to your local neighborhood team. Please describe the consultation carried out to make sure your project is supported by the people directly impacted by your project. So we've got a support clinic coming up soon about how to do a consultation. If you're not sure whether the project requires consultation, please do speak to a member of staff from your local neighborhood team as well. We can sort of assess whether your project idea is likely to require a consultation. This is quite important as well, this section about your project impact. So obviously you're going to carry out this amazing project in that particular neighborhood. So how will it actually benefit the local community? So for example, you might sort of make green space more accessible for people. You might make people feel safe when they're walking home. There's particular ideas that you might submit as a project that will impact directly to local residents, and just explain that in that section for us as well. So who will be your main project beneficiaries? So who will benefit from your project going ahead? So that could be residents, local businesses, and so forth. So how many people do you hope will participate or be impacted by your project? So your project is not about just you delivering it, is how what you do to involve as many people as possible, because the more people you involve, the more volunteers you involve, they will then by word of mouth speak to their neighbors and get people to know about what's going on in their community, and get more and more people that without you even knowing will have a bigger impact. So the more people involved, the better it is in terms of impact. So, and then we move on to section 3 about essential criteria. So because this is NSIL funded, there are some, and also that local residents in each neighborhood have voted for what their priorities, their top 3 priorities should be. This is the section where you need to indicate how your project idea addresses what the 3 local priorities are. So the 3 local priorities, if I scroll back up, you will see on page, this is page 6. So whichever neighborhood you are, for example, if you want to do a project in East Ham, I can say that health and well-being, youth empowerment, community development participation will be the priorities I will need to address through my project that I'm proposing. So make sure it addresses one or even more of those 3 priorities on page 6, so on in that particular neighborhood. And also you need to make sure that we are satisfy the NSIL criteria as well. So just describe how your project will help your local area grow and develop to make it a better place for people to live. Just 150 words on that. So and then the criteria 2 for NSIL is explain how your project improves your community facilities, public spaces and infrastructure set out in the infrastructure list, or contribute towards our priority to improve health and well-being for residents as well. So there's 2 criteria for NSIL. There's the first one here, and then there's criteria 2. So please describe that as best as you can on how you address those criteria. Sorry, I am speaking very quickly because we're just over time. This section is really important. This is where you have the opportunity to break down your what you're asking for in terms of grants. I'd say you're asking for £15,000. You need to be able to indicate to us how that is broken down quite as detailed as possible. So if we've got any further questions, we might come back to you on some of these costings as well. There is we will upload a guide on how to cost your project. So for example, if there's certain materials that you're so you know that you need, you're doing something on the highway, you need to put something in, there's some sort of costing guides. We will put that up on Code Create as soon as we can over the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. If you are relying on another source of funding as well, so some organizations might be sourcing other pots as well to fund the entire project, so you need to describe where that's coming from and how much of that you're getting as part of the total funds. And then section 5 moves on to project delivery. So who will be delivering your project? Again, is there opportunities for people to get involved, like volunteers, and again, residents as well? So it's quite important that, because this is local organisation resident delivered projects, we want you to encourage as many local residents to get involved as well and spread the word as well. So again, this is all about that impact at the end. Third-party involvement. So describe any proposed third-party involvement in delivery of the project and the measures that will be taken to ensure delivery timescales and cost controls is managed, such as inflation, material cost over the next 2 years. Remember, this is a 2-year cycle, so try to put in as much contingency as well, so in case prices of material do go up over the next couple of years. A third party potentially could be contractors that you might need to commission in to help you put something in or even deliver a particular type of service. So do put the details of that third party in there as well, please. And then the timeline again is very important. So we need to be able to see that your timeline is realistic. So just put approximate dates and your milestones of what you expect to achieve by that date and how much you think you might have spent by that particular date as well. So there's a few boxes there to put your milestones in and what you hope to achieve during those milestones. Also maintenance, that's really important that, yes, okay, you might finish the project, but what kind of measures are you putting in to make sure that you've kind of successfully covered maintenance over the following years after the projects are finished? So this might be sort of you doing consultation with local residents who might volunteer to maintain certain things or help you with certain aspects in the future as well. So we don't want projects just to finish, but be it sort of legacy going forward for the community. So risk factors, are there any risks that could affect the delivery of it? So again, just make sure you identify any risk and any mitigating actions that you might have put in place to make sure that your project will be successful as well. And then evaluation. So again, this will be really good if you can sort of, you know, a suggestion here is how will you, it's measuring that impact. So how will you be able to measure what your project has achieved in terms of community impact? So some of you might want to do a local survey with local residents before you even start the project, and then come back to them after you've finished your project, and then get a impact assessment at the end as well, so you can compare before and after. So that's that again, bonus points if you can say that you're going to be doing that sort of impact measures as well. So submitting it, so again, these are pretty straightforward bits at the end where you just sign, print. So there'll be two types of forms. One that you can just download, fill out on your computer and email it back. So at the end of this document, you will see the email addresses. So for the particular neighborhood that you want to submit your project proposal for, so the email addresses are in here. Again, if you're not sure about anything about the application, do phone this number or email that mailbox with your queries. There will be, I will be putting up a print ready version as well, hopefully tomorrow. So this print ready version will be a copy of this application form that you can print in your home or your office, and you'll be able to sort of write it. There's an extra space for you to handwrite it. So if you prefer that method, you can do that, print it out, write it out, and then hand it in or post it into your local community neighborhood office. And then there's some conditions of granting. I'm not going to go through all that. I'll let you read that through. But team, have I missed anything? I'm going to stop sharing now because we have gone quite far into time. Sadia?
I think that's definitely covered everything. Thank you all for being patient with us. I think you all had some really good questions and we have overrun by 10 minutes, but hopefully this has been a really useful introduction to the project application forms for voluntary community and faith sector. We would really appreciate it if you do provide us with some feedback. Samantha has dropped that in the chat. There is a link to a site. It should take you no longer than 2 to 3 minutes to complete this. This is our way to always improve our project clinics and our processes that we're undertaking to support all of our organisations in the borough.
I'm just going to go just do the last couple of slides, just make sure we haven't missed anything. So we've done the questions, we've done the form. So thanks for joining. Contact your local team, spread the word, make sure you let everyone know, as many people know as possible. Again, we've got double the amount of money available, so lots of money to go around, lots of projects available for us to implement in local communities as well. And then, yeah, Samantha's just posted the feedback link in the chat. Please do fill that out. That is important for us as well. So,
Chris, may I just clarify something?
Sure.
You know, CN teams do support, but they can't write application on anybody's behalf.
Yes.
We can let them know what the questions are, what the teams are looking for, but we can't go beyond that. So that if that can be clarified with everybody, please.
Yes, we definitely we can't write the application for you. We can just help you support in terms of let you know what the question is asking from you. So and then it'll be up to you to write the answers in that application form. Is that Paul? Final question maybe?
Yeah, my question is related to general presentation. Do you have any idea, a limited number of grants that you will offer for each neighborhood, or there is a limited number? For example, Canning Town and the Custom House, how many applications which can be expected to be successful? There is a limited number. For example, one for each constituency or neighborhood or.
Thank you for that question, Paul. It really depends on how many applications we receive from residents, because of course those are only £5,000, and then how many application forms we receive from voluntary community and faith sector groups, which could be up to £20,000. So it could be, I mean, it could be 10 voluntary community and faith sector organisations that are successful and get the £200,000, if that makes sense. Or it all depends on the voting process. Or it could be also a range of resident projects. So that then means that we will have more than 20, if that makes sense. It's really hard to give you a definitive number.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, right. I think we'll close it there. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate you spending the time to listen to us, and we just want to encourage you to put your applications in. You know, contact your neighbourhood team if you unsure how the process on putting that application form in as well. So they're there to support you, but I just, you know, please put your application forms in. Your ideas matter. Your community will appreciate it. And we're looking forward to kind of taking in some interesting projects this coming 2 years. Thanks everyone from me. Sadia, do you want any last words from you?
I think it's all, Chris. Thank you all for your time today. It's been really insightful in terms of the questions. I think we've had some fantastic questions. Thank you all for your contributions. Please also come along to our solution events. We've got them over the next fortnight, starting next Monday.
Right, take care everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye everyone.
Bye bye.